Tools of Titans. The tactics, routines, and habits of billionaires, icons, and world-class performers. Tim Ferriss. Contents. Foreword. On the shoulders of giants. Read this first. How to use this book. Part 1, Healthy. Amelia Boone. Rhonda Percival Patrick. Christopher Sommer. Gymnast Strong. Dominic D'Agostino. Patrick Arnold. Joe DeCina. Wim the Iceman Hoff. Rick Rubin's Barrel Sauna. Jason Niemer. Acro Yoga Tie and Fly. Deconstructing Sports and Skills with Questions. Peter Attia. Justin Major. Charles Poliquin. The Slow Carb Diet Registered Cheat Sheet. My 6-piece gym in a bag. Pavel Tsatsouline. Laird Hamilton, Gabby Reese and Brian McKenzie. James Fadiman. Martin Polanco and Dan Engel. Kelly Starrett. Paul Levesque, Triple H. Jane McGonigal, Adam Gazzaley. 5 tools for faster and better sleep. 5 morning rituals that help me win the day. Mind Training 101. 3 tips from a Google pioneer. Coach Sommer, The Single Decision. Part 2, Wealthy. Chris Sacca. Mark Andreessen. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Derek Sivers. Alexis Ohanian. Productivity tricks for the neurotic, manic depressive, and crazy, like me, Matt Mullenweg. Nicholas McCarthy. Tony Robbins. Casey Neistat. Morgan Spurlock. What My Morning Journal Looks Like. Reid Hoffman. Peter Thiel. Seth Godin. James Altucher. How to Create a Real-World MBA. Scott Adams. Shaun White. The Law of Category. Chase Jarvis. Dan Carlin. Ramit Sethi. 1000 True Fans Revisited. Hacking Kickstarter, Alex Bloomberg. The Podcast Gear I Use. Ed Catmull. Tracy D'Annunzio. Phil Liban. Chris Young. Damon John. Noah Kagan. Cascade. Luis von Ahn. The Canvas Strategy. Kevin Rose. Gut Investing. Neil Strauss. Mike Shinoda. Justin Borda. Scott Belsky. How to Earn Your Freedom. Peter Diamandis, Sophia Amoruso. BJ Novak. How to Say No When It Matters Most. Part 3, Wise. BJ Miller. Maria Popova. J. Ako Willink. Sebastian Junger. Mark Goodman. Sami Kamkar. Tools of a Hacker. General Stanley McChrystal and Chris Fussell. Shay Carl. Will McCaskill, The Dickens Process. What are your beliefs costing you? Kevin Costner. Sam Harris. Caroline Paul. My Favorite Thought Exercise, Fear Setting. Kevin Kelly. Is This What I So Feared? Whitney Cummings. Brian Callen. Alain de Botton. Lazy, A Manifesto. Cal Fuzzman. Joshua Skeens. Rick Rubin. The Soundtrack of Excellence. Jack Dorsey. Paulo Coelho, Writing Prompts from Cheryl Strayed. Ed Cook. Amanda Palmer. Eric Weinstein. Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. 8 Tactics for Dealing with Haters. Margaret Cho. Andrew Zimmern. Rainn Wilson. Naval Ravikant. Glenn Beck. Tara Brach. Sam Cass. Edward Norton. Richard Betts. Mike Birbiglia. The Jar of Awesome. Malcolm Gladwell. Stephen J. Dubner, Josh Waitzkin. Why You Need a Deloiting Phase in Life. Breen Brown. Jason Silva. John Favreau. Testing the Impossible, 17 Questions That Changed My Life. Jamie Foxx. Brian Johnson. Brian Koppelman. Some Practical Thoughts on Suicide. Robert Rodriguez. Good. C. Cow Andrews. Conclusion: the top 25 episodes of the Tim Ferriss Show. My rapid fire questions. The most gifted and recommended books of all. Guests. What would you put on a billboard? Favorite films and TV shows. Acknowledgements. Read this. First. How to use this book. Out on the edge you see all kinds of things you can't see from the center. Big, undreamed of things. The people on the edge see them first. Kurt Vonnegut. Routine, in an intelligent man, is a sign of ambition. W. H. Auden. I'm a compulsive note-taker. To wit, I have recorded nearly every workout since age 18 or so. Roughly 8 feet of shelf space in my home is occupied by spine upon spine of notebook upon notebook. That, mind you, is one subject. It extends to dozens. Some people would call this OCD, and many would consider it a manic wild goose chase. I view it simply, it is the collection of my life's recipes. My goal is to learn things once and use them forever. For instance, let's say I stumble upon a picture of myself from June 5, 2007. And I think, I really wish I looked like that again. No problem. I'll crack open a dusty volume from 2007, review the 8 weeks of training and food logs preceding June 5th, repeat them, and voila, end up looking nearly the same as my younger self, minus the hair. It's not always that easy, but it often is. This book, like my others, is a compendium of recipes for high performance that I gathered for my own use. There's one big difference, though. I never planned on publishing this. 1. As I write this, I'm sitting in a cafe in Paris overlooking the Luxembourg Garden, just off of Rue Saint-Jacques. Rue Saint-Jacques is likely the oldest road in Paris, and it has a rich literary history. Victor Hugo lived a few blocks from where I'm sitting. Gertrude Stein drank coffee and F. Scott Fitzgerald socialized within a stone's throw. Hemingway wandered up and on the sidewalks, his books percolating in his mind, wine no doubt percolating in his blood. I came to France to take a break from everything. No social media, no email. No social commitments, no set plans. Except one project. The month had been set aside to review all of the lessons I'd learned from nearly 200 world-class performers I'd interviewed on the Tim Ferriss Show, which recently passed 100 million downloads. The guests included chess prodigies, movie stars, 4-star generals, pro athletes, and hedge fund managers. It was a motley crew. More than a handful of them had since become collaborators in business and creative projects, spanning from investments to indie film. As a result, I'd absorbed a lot of their wisdom outside of our recordings, whether over workouts, wine-infused jam sessions, text message exchanges, dinners, or late-night phone calls. In every case, I'd gotten to know them well beyond the superficial headlines in the media. My life had already improved in every area as a result of the lessons I could remember. But that was the tip of the iceberg. The majority of the gems were still lodged in thousands of pages of transcripts and hand-scribbled notes. More than anything, I longed for the chance to distill everything into a playbook. So, I'd set aside an entire month for review, and, if I'm being honest, pain. Oh chocolate, to put together the ultimate Cliff's Notes for myself. It would be the notebook to end all notebooks. Something that could help me in minutes, but be read for a lifetime. That was the lofty goal, at least, and I wasn't sure what the result would be. Within weeks of starting, the experience exceeded all expectations. No matter the situation I found myself in, something in this book was able to help. Now, when I'm feeling stuck, trapped, desperate, angry, conflicted, or simply unclear, the first thing I do is flip through these pages with a strong cup of coffee in hand. So far, the needed medicine has popped out within 20 minutes of revisiting these friends, who will now become your friends. Need a reassuring pat on the back? There's someone for that. An unapologetic slap in the face? Plenty of people for that, too. Someone to explain why your fears are unfounded or why your excuses are bullshit. Done. There are a lot of powerful quotes. But this book is much more than a compilation of quotes. It is a toolkit for changing your life. There are many books full of interviews. This is different, because I don't view myself as an interviewer. I view myself as an experimenter. If I can't test something or replicate results in the messy reality of everyday life, I'm not interested. Everything in these pages has been vetted, explored, and applied to my own life in some fashion. I've used dozens of these tactics and philosophies in high-stakes negotiations, high-risk environments, or large business dealings. The lessons have made me millions of dollars and saved me years of wasted effort and frustration. They work when you need them most. Some applications are obvious at first glance, while others are subtle and will provoke a holy shit, now I get it realization weeks later, while you're daydreaming in the shower or about to fall asleep. Many of the one-liners teach volumes. Some summarize excellence in an entire field in one sentence. As Josh Waitzkin, page 577, chess prodigy and the inspiration behind searching for Bobby Fischer, might put it, these bite-sized learnings are a way to learn the macro from the micro. The process of piecing them together was revelatory. If I thought I saw the matrix before, I was mistaken, or I was only seeing 10% of it. Still, even that 10% islands of notes on individual mentors had already changed my life and helped me 10x my results. But after revisiting more than 100 minds as part of the same fabric, things got very interesting very quickly. For the movie nerds among you, it was like the end of The Sixth Sense or The Usual Suspects, The Red Door knob, the fucking Kobayashi coffee cup. How did I not notice that? It was right in front of me the whole time. To help you see the same, I've done my best to weave patterns together throughout the book, noting where guests have complementary habits, beliefs, and recommendations. The completed jigsaw puzzle is much greater than the sum of its parts. What makes these PEOPLE different? Judge a man by his questions rather than his answers. Pierre-Marc Gaston. These world-class performers don't have superpowers. The rules they've crafted for themselves allow the bending of reality to such an extent that it may seem that way, but they've learned how to do this. And so can you. These rules are often uncommon habits and bigger questions. In a surprising number of cases, the power is in the absurd. The more absurd, the more impossible the question, the more profound the answers. Take, for instance, a question that serial Billionaire Peter Thiel likes to ask himself and others. If you have a 10-year plan of how to get somewhere, you should ask, why can't you do this in 6 months? For purposes of illustration here, I might reword that to, what might you do to accomplish your 10-year goals in the next 6 months, if you had a gun against your head? Now, let's pause. Do I expect you to take 10 seconds to ponder this and then magically accomplish 10 years worth of dreams in the next few months? No, I don't. But I do expect that the question will productively break your mind, like a butterfly shattering a chrysalis to emerge with new capabilities. The normal systems you have in place, the social rules you forced upon yourself, the standard frameworks, they don't work when answering a question like this. You are forced to shed artificial constraints, like shedding a skin, to realize that you had the ability to renegotiate your reality all along. It just takes practice. My suggestion is that you spend real time with the questions you find most ridiculous in this book. 30 minutes of stream of consciousness journaling. Page 224, could change your life. On top of that, while the world is a gold mine, you need to go digging in other people's heads to unearth riches. Questions are your pickaxes and competitive advantage. This book will give you an arsenal to choose from. Performance enhancing details. When organizing all of the material for myself, I didn't want an onerous 37-step program. I wanted low-hanging fruit with immediate returns. Think of the bite-sized rules within these pages as pets. Performance-enhancing details. They can be added to any training regimen. Read here, different careers, personal preferences, unique responsibilities, etc., to pour gasoline on the fire of progress. Fortunately, 10x results don't always require 10x effort. Big changes can come in small packages. To dramatically change your life, you don't need to run a 100-mile race, get a PhD, or completely reinvent yourself. It's the small things done consistently that are the big things. Example: red teaming once per quarter, Tara Brach's guided meditations, strategic fasting or exogenous ketones, etc. Tool is defined broadly in this book. It includes routines, books, common self-talk, supplements, favorite questions, and much more. What do they have in common? In this book, you'll naturally look for common habits and recommendations. And you should. Here are a few patterns. Some odder than others. More than 80% of the interviewees have some form of daily mindfulness or meditation practice. A surprising number of males, not females, over 45 never eat breakfast, or eat only the scantiest of fare. Example: Laird Hamilton, page 92. Malcolm Gladwell, page 572, General Stanley McChrystal, page 435. Many use the Chill iPad device for cooling at bedtime. Rave reviews of the book Sapiens, for Charlie's Almanac, Influence, and Man's Search for Meaning. Among others, the habit of listening to single songs on repeat for focus, page 507. Nearly everyone has done some form of spec work, completing projects on their own time and dime, then submitting them to prospective buyers. The belief that failure is not durable, see Robert Rodriguez, page 628, or variants thereof. Almost every guest has been able to take obvious weaknesses and turn them into huge competitive advantages. See Arnold Schwarzenegger, page 176. Of course, I will help you connect these dots, but that's less than half of the value of this book. Some of the most encouraging workarounds are found in the outliers. I want you to look for the black sheep who fit your unique idiosyncrasies. Keep an eye out for the non-traditional paths, like Shay Carl's journey from manual laborer to YouTube star to co-founder of a startup sold for nearly $1 billion, page 441. The variation is the consistency. As a software engine, ER might say, that's not a bug. It's a feature. Borrow liberally, combine uniquely, and create your own bespoke blueprint. This book is a buffet. Here's how to get the most out of it. Rule number 1, skip liberally. I want you to skip anything that doesn't grab you. This book should be fun to read, and it's a buffet to choose from. Don't suffer through anything. If you hate shrimp, don't eat the goddamn shrimp. Treat it as a choose-your-own-adventure guide, as that's how I've written it. My goal is for each reader to like 50%, love 25%, and never forget 10%. Here's why, for the millions who've heard the podcast, and the dozens who proofread this book, the 50/25/10 highlights are completely different for every person. It's blown my mind. I've even had multiple guests in this book, people who are the best at what they do, proofread the same profile, answering my question of which 10% would you absolutely keep, and which 10% would you absolutely cut. Oftentimes, the 10% must keep of one person was the exact must cut of someone else. This is not one size fits all. I expect you to discard plenty. Read what you enjoy. Rule number 2, skip, but do so intelligently. All that said, take a brief mental note of anything you skip. Perhaps put a little dot in the corner of the page or highlight the headline. Perhaps it's skipping and glossing over precisely these topics or questions that has created blind spots, bottlenecks, and unresolved issues in your life. That was certainly true for me. If you decide to flip past something, note it, return to it later at some point, and ask yourself, why did I skip this? Did it offend you? Seem beneath you? Seem too difficult? And did you arrive at that by thinking it through, or is it a reflection of biases inherited from your parents and others? Very often, our beliefs are not our own. This type of practice is how you create yourself, instead of seeking to discover yourself. There is value in the latter, but it's mostly past tense. It's a rear view mirror. Looking out the windshield is how you get where you want to go. Just remember 2 principles. I was recently standing in Place Louis, Aragon, a shaded outdoor nook on the River Seine, having a picnic with writing students from the Paris American Academy. One woman pulled me aside and asked what I hoped to convey in this book, at the core. Seconds later, we were pulled back into the fray, as the attendees were all taking turns talking about the circuitous paths that brought them there that day. Nearly everyone had a story of wanting to come to Paris for years, in some cases, 30 to 40 years. But assuming it was impossible, listening to their stories, I pulled out a scrap of paper and jotted down my answer to her question. In this book, at its core, I want to convey the following. 1. Success, however you define it, is achievable if you collect the right field-tested beliefs and habits someone else has done your version of success before. And often, many have done something similar. But, you might ask, what about a first, like colonizing Mars? There are still recipes. Look at empire building. Of other types, look at the biggest decisions in the life of Robert Moses, read The Power Broker. Or simply find someone who stepped up to do great things that were deemed impossible at the time, example Walt Disney. There is shared DNA you can borrow. 2. The superheroes you have in your mind, idols, icons, titans, billionaires, etc., are nearly all walking flaws who've maximized one or two strengths. Humans are imperfect creatures. You don't succeed because you have no weaknesses, you succeed because you find your unique strengths and focus on developing habits around them. To make this crystal clear, I've deliberately included 2 sections in this book, pages 197 and 616, that will make you think, wow, Tim Ferriss is a mess. How the hell does he ever get anything done? Everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about. The heroes in this book are no different. Everyone struggles. Take solace in that. A few important notes on format. Structure. This book is comprised of 3 sections, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Of course, there is tremendous overlap across the sections, as the pieces are interdependent. In fact, you could think of the 3 as a tripod upon which life is balanced. One needs all 3 to have any sustainable success or happiness. Wealthy, in the context of this book, also means much more than money. It extends to abundance in time, relationships, and more. My original intention with the 4-hour work week, 4HWW, the 4-hour body, 4HB, and the 4-hour chef, 4HC, was to create a trilogy themed after Ben Franklin's famous quote, "Early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise." People constantly ask me, what would you put in the 4-hour work week if you were to write it again? How would you update it? Ditto for 4HB and 4HC. Tools of Titans contains most of the answers for all 3. Extended quotes. Before writing this book, I called Mason Curry, author of Daily Rituals, which profiles the rituals of 161 creatives like Franz Kafka and Pablo Picasso. I asked him what his best decisions were related to the book. Mason responded with, "I let my subjects' voices come through as much as possible, and I think that was one of things that I did right. Often, it wasn't the details of their routine/habits, so much as how they talked about them. That was interesting." This is a critical observation and exactly why most books of quotes fail to have any real impact. Take, for example, a one-liner like, "What's on the other side of fear?" Nothing from Jamie Foxx. It's memorable, and you might guess at the profound underlying meaning. I'd still wager you'd forget it within a week. But, what if I made it infinitely more powerful by including Jamie's own explanation of why he uses that maxim to teach his kids confidence? The context and original language teaches you how to think like a world-class performer. not just regurgitate quotes. That is the key meta skill we're aiming for. To that end, you'll see a lot of extended quotes and stories. I've occasionally bolded lines within quotes. This is my emphasis, not the guest's. How to read quotes. The micro equals portion of dialogue omitted. Words in brackets equals additional information that wasn't part of the interview but may be necessary to understand what's being discussed, or related info or recommendations from yours truly. How to read quotes. The macro. One of my podcast guests, also one of the smartest people I know, was shocked when I showed him his raw transcript. Wow, he said. I generally like to think of myself as a decently smart guy. But I use past, present, and future tense. Like they're the same fucking thing. It makes me sound like a complete moron. Transcripts can be unforgiving. I've read my own, so I know how bad it can be. In the heat of the moment, grammar can go out the window, to be replaced by false starts and sentence fragments. Everyone starts an ungodly number of sentences with and or so. I and millions of others tend to use and I was. Like instead of and I said. Many of us mix up plural and singular. This all works fine in conversation, but it can hiccup on the printed page. Quotations have therefore been edited. In some cases for clarity, space, and as a courtesy to guests and readers alike. I did my best to preserve the spirit and point of quotes, while making them as smart and readable as possible. Sometimes I keep it fast and loose to preserve the kinetic energy and emotion of the moment. Other times, I smooth out the edges, including my own stammering. If anything sounds silly or off, assume it was my mistake. Everyone in this book is amazing, and I've done my best to showcase that. Patterns. Where guests have related recommendations or philosophies, I've noted them in parentheses. For instance, if Jane Doe tells a story about the value of testing higher prices, I might add. See Mark Andreessen, page 170. Since his answer to if you could have a billboard anywhere, what would you put on it, was raise prices, which he explains in depth. Humor. I've included ample doses of the ridiculous. First of all, if we're serious all the time, we'll wear out before we get the truly serious stuff done. Second, if this book were all stern looks and no winks, all productivity and no grab-assing, you'd remember very little. I agree with Tony Robbins, page 210. That information without emotion isn't retained. Look up von Restorff effect and primacy and recency effect for more science, but this book has been deliberately constructed to maximize your retention. Which leads us to spirit animals. Yes, spirit animals. There wasn't room for photographs in this book, but I wanted some sort of illustrations to keep things fun. It seemed like a lost cause. But then after a glass or four of wine, I recalled that one of my guests, Alexis Ahanian, page 194, likes to ask potential hires, what's your spirit animal? Eureka! So, you'll see thumbnail spirit animals for anyone who would humor me and play along. The best part? Dozens of people took the question very seriously. Extended explanations, emotional changes of heart, and Venn diagrams ensued. Questions poured in. Would a mythological creature be acceptable? Can I be a plant instead? Alas, I couldn't get a hold of everyone in time for publication, so drawings are sprinkled throughout like Scooby snacks. In a book full of practicality, treat these like little rainbows of absurdity. People had fun with it. Non-profile content and Tim Ferriss chapters. In all sections, there are multiple non-profile pieces by guests and yours truly. These are typically intended to expand upon key principles and tools mentioned by multiple people. URLs, websites, and social media. I've omitted most URLs, as outdated. URLs are nothing but frustrating for every one. For nearly anything mentioned, assume that I've chosen wording that will allow you to find it easily on Google or Amazon. All full podcast episodes can be found at 4hourworkweek.com/podcast. Just search the guest's name, and the extended audio, complete show notes, links, and resources will pop up like warm toast on a cold morning. In nearly every guest's profile, I indicate where you can best interact with them on social media, TW equals Twitter, FB equals Facebook, IG equals Instagram, SC equals Snapchat, and Lee equals LinkedIn. Your send-off. The 3 tools that allow all the rest. Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse is recommended by many guests in this book. There is one specific takeaway that Naval Ravikant, page 546, has reinforced with me several times on our long walks over coffee. The protagonist, Siddhartha, a monk who looks like a beggar, has come to the city and falls in love with a famous courtesan named Kamala. He attempts to court her, and she asks, "What do you have?" A well-known merchant similarly asks, "What can you give that you have learned?" His answer is the same in both cases, so I've included the latter story here. Siddhartha ultimately acquires all that he wants. Merchant: if you are without possessions, how can you give? Siddhartha: everyone gives what he has. The soldier gives strength, the merchant goods, the teacher instruction, the farmer rice, the fisherman fish. Merchant: very well, and what can you give? What have you learned that you can give? Siddhartha: I can think, I can wait, I can fast. Merchant: is that all? Siddhartha: I think that is all. Merchant: and of what use are they? For example, fasting, what good is that? Siddhartha: it is of great value, sir. If a man has nothing to eat, fasting is the most intelligent thing he can do. If, for instance, Siddhartha had not learned to fast, he would have had to seek some kind of work today, either with you, or elsewhere, for hunger would have driven him. But, as it is, Siddhartha can wait calmly. He is not impatient, he is not in need, he can ward off hunger for a long time and laugh at it. I think of Siddhartha's answers often, and in the following terms. I can think rightward arrow having good rules for decision making, and having good questions you can ask yourself and others. I can wait rightward arrow being able to plan long term, play the long game, and not misallocate your resources. I can fast rightward arrow being able to withstand difficulties and disaster, training yourself to be uncommonly resilient and have a high pain tolerance. This book will help you to develop all 3. I created Tools of Titans because it's the book that I've wanted my entire life. I hope you enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. Pura Vida. Tim Ferriss. Paris, France 1. Healthy. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Lao Tzu. It is no measure of health to be well. Adjusted to a profoundly sick society. J. Krishnamurthy. In the end, winning is sleeping better. Jodie Foster. I'm not the strongest. I'm not the fastest. But spirit. Animal. Carp. I'm really good at suffering. Amelia Boone, TW. At Amelia Boone. AmeliaBooneRacing.com, has been called the Michael Jordan of obstacle course racing, OCR, and is widely considered the world's most decorated obstacle racer. Since the inception of the sport, she's amassed more than 30 victories and 50 podiums. In the 2012 World's Toughest Mudder competition, which lasts 24 hours, she covered 90 miles and 300 obstacles. She finished second overall out of more than 1,000 competitors, 80% of whom were male. The one person who beat her finished just 8 minutes ahead of her. Her major victories include the Spartan Race World Championship and the Spartan Race Elite Point Series, and she is the only 3-time winner of the world's Toughest Mudder, 2012, 2014, and 2015. She won the 2014 championship 8 weeks after knee surgery. Amelia is also a 3-time finisher of the Death Race, a full-time attorney at Apple, and she dabbles in ultra running, qualified for the Western States 100, in all of her spare time. What would you put on a billboard? No one owes you anything. Amelia's best $100 or less purchase. Manuka honey bandages. Amelia has scars all over her shoulders and back from barbed wire wounds. Most gifted or recommended book. House of Leaves by Mark Danielewski. This is a book that you have to hold, because there are parts of it where you need to turn it upside down to read it. There are certain pages where you are reading it, and it turns in a circle. This is a book that's an entire sensory experience. Amelia's Tips and Tactics. Hydrolyzed gelatin plus beet root powder. I've consumed gelatin for connective tissue repair in the past. I've never stuck with it long term, because gelatin takes on a seagull like texture when mixed into cold water. Amelia saved my palate and joints by introducing me to the Great Lakes hydrolyzed version, green label, which blends easily and smoothly. Add a tablespoon of beetroot powder like Beet Elite to stave off any cow hoof flavor, and it's a whole new game. Amelia uses Beet Elite pre-race and pre-training for its endurance benefits, but I'm much harder core. I use it to make tart, low-carb gummy bears when Fat Tim has carb cravings. Rumble roller, think foam roller meets monster truck tire. Foam rollers have historically done very little for me, but this torture device had an immediate positive impact on my recovery. It also helps you sleep if used before bed. Warning, start slow. I tried to copy Amelia and did 20+ minutes my first session. The next day, I felt like I'd been put in a sleeping bag and swung against a tree for a few hours. Rolling your foot on top of a golf ball on the floor to increase hamstring flexibility. This is Infinitely more helpful than a lacrosse ball. Put a towel on the floor, underneath the golf ball, lest you shoot your dogs. Eye out. Concept 2 Ski Erg 4. Training when your lower body is injured. After knee surgery, Amelia used this low-impact machine to maintain cardiovascular endurance and prepare for the 2014 World's Toughest Mudder, which she won. 8 weeks post-op. Kelly Starrett, page 122, is also a big fan of this device. Dry needling, I'd never heard of this before. Meeting Amelia. In acupuncture, the goal is not to feel the needle. In dry needling, you are sticking the needle in the muscle belly and trying to get it to twitch, and the twitch is the release. It's used for super tight, over-contracted muscles. And the needles are not left in. Unless you're a masochist, don't have this done on your calves. Sauna for endurance. Amelia has found using a sauna improves her endurance, a concept that has since been confirmed by several other athletes, including cyclist David Zabriskie, 7-time U.S. national time trial championship winner. He considers sauna training a more practical replacement for high-altitude simulation tents. In the 2005 Tour de France, Dave won the Stage 1 time trial, making him the first American to win stages in all 3 Grand Tours. Zabriskie beat Lance Armstrong by seconds, clocking an average speed of 54.676 kilometers per hour. I now use a sauna at least 4 times per week. To figure out the best protocols, I asked another podcast guest, Rhonda Patrick. Her response is on page 7. Who do you think of when you hear the word successful? Triple H is a great example of someone who's transitioned extremely well from athlete to business executive. So, Paul L.E. Vesk. See page 128. Random facts. Amelia eats Pop-Tarts as part of her ritual pre-competition breakfast. Her record for unbroken double unders, passing a jump rope under your feet twice with one jump, is 423, and is thus able to impress all CrossFitters. Unbeknownst to them, she was a state jump rope champion in 3rd grade. Also unbeknownst to them, she ended at 423. Because she had to pee so badly that she peed her pants. Amelia loves doing training runs in the rain and cold, as she knows her competition is probably opting out. This is an example of rehearsing the worst case scenario to become more resilient. See page 474. She is a gifted a cappella singer and was part of the Greenleafs group at Washington University in St. Louis. Spirit animal. Coy wolf. Rhonda Percheval. Patrick Rhonda Percheval Patrick, Ph.D. TW/FB/IG at FoundMyFitness. FoundMyFitness.com, has worked alongside notables, including Dr. Bruce Ames, the inventor of the Ames mutagenicity test and the 23rd most cited scientist across all fields. Between 1973 and 1984. Dr. Patrick also conducts clinical trials, performed aging research at the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, and did graduate research at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, where she focused on cancer, mitochondrial metabolism, and apoptosis. More recently, Dr. Patrick has published papers on a mechanism by which vitamin D is able to regulate the production of serotonin in the brain and the various implications this may have for early life deficiency and relevance for neuropsychiatric disorders. The tooth fairy might save your life or your kids' lives. Dr. Patrick introduced me to using teeth for stem cell banking. If you are having your wisdom teeth removed, or if your kids are losing their baby teeth, which have a particularly high concentration of dental pulp stem cells, consider using a company like StemSave or National Dental Pulp Laboratory to preserve them for later use. These companies will send your oral surgeon a kit, and then freeze the biological matter using liquid nitrogen. Costs vary, but are roughly $625 for setup and then $125 per year for storage and maintenance. Mesenchymal stem cells can later be harvested from the dental pulp of teeth for useful, example bone, cartilage, muscle, blood vessels, etc., life-changing, example motor neurons for repairing damaged spinal cord, or potentially life-saving, example traumatic brain injury, treatments using your own biological raw materials. Heat is the new black. Hyperthermic conditioning, calculated heat exposure, can help you to increase growth hormone, GH, levels and substantially improve endurance. I now take 20-minute sauna sessions post-workout or post-stretching at least 4 times per week, typically at roughly 160 to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. If nothing else, it seems to dramatically decrease DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. Focusing on endurance and growth hormone, here are some observations from Dr. Patrick. One study has demonstrated that a 30-minute sauna session twice a week for 3 weeks post-workout increased the time it took for study participants to run until exhaustion by 32%. Compared to baseline, the 32% increase in running endurance found in this particular study was accompanied by a 7.1% increase in plasma volume and 3.5% increase in red blood cell count. 2 20-minute sauna sessions at 80 degrees Celsius 176 degrees Fahrenheit separated by a 30-minute cooling period elevated growth hormone levels twofold over baseline, whereas 2 15-minute dry heat sessions at 100 degrees Celsius 212 degrees Fahrenheit separated by a 30-minute cooling period resulted in a 5-fold increase in growth hormone. The growth hormone effects gene rally persist for a couple of hours post-sauna. TF, hot baths can also significantly increase GH over baseline, and both sauna and hot baths have been shown to cause a massive release in prolactin, which plays a role in wound healing. I usually stay in a hot bath or sauna for about 20 minutes, which is long enough to significantly elevate my heart rate. I push a few minutes past dynorphin release, which usually makes one feel dysphoric and want to get out, but not to dizziness or lightheadedness. Generally, I'll listen to an audiobook, like The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman during the heat, then cool off for 5 to 10 minutes using an ice bath. I put 40 pounds of ice in a large bath to get it to roughly 45 degrees Fahrenheit. More details on page 43, or by drinking ice water. I'll repeat this cycle 2 to 4 times. 3 people Dr. Patrick has learned from or followed closely in the last year. Dr. Bruce Ames, Dr. Sachin Panda, professor at the Salk Institute in San Diego, California, Dr. Jennifer Doudna, professor of biochemistry and molecular biology at UC Berkeley. If the best in the world are stretching their asses, spirit, animal, falcon, off in order to get strong, why aren't you? Christopher Sommer, Christopher Sommer, IG/FB, at Gymnastic Bodies. Gymnasticbodies.com, is a former U.S. national team gymnastics coach and founder of Gymnastic Bodies, a training system that I've tested for the last 8 months. No affiliation. As a world-renowned coach, Sommer is known for building his students into some of the strongest, most powerful athletes in the world. During his extensive 40-year coaching career, Coach Sommer took meticulous notes on his training techniques, his wins and failures, so that he could translate the best elements into a superior exercise system for both high-level and beginner athletes. His 4 decades of careful observation led to the birth of gymnastics strength training, GST. Backstory: the combination of GST and acro yoga, page 52, has completely remodeled my body in the last year. I'm more flexible and mobile at age 39 than I was at age 20. I'm going to skip explaining a lot. Example: Maltese Stalder press handstand. That is best seen in video or pictures, though I'll describe the most critical. Starting on page 53. Google is your friend on working on your weaknesses. If you want to be a stud later, you have to be a pud now. Coach first told me this when I was complaining about slow progress with shoulder extension. Imagine clasping your hands together behind your back, arms straight, then raising your arms without bending at the waist. When in doubt, work on the deficiencies you're most embarrassed by. My biggest weaknesses are shoulder extension and bridging using the thoracic spine versus lower back arch. After improving them 10% over 3 to 4 weeks, going from making coach vomit to merely making coach laugh, a host of physical issues that plagued me for years completely disappeared. To assess your biggest weaknesses, start by finding a functional movement screen, FMS, near you. Related from Sommer: you're not responsible for the hand of cards you were dealt. You're responsible for maxing out what you were given. Flexibility versus mobility. Sommer's distinction between flexibility and mobility is the most concrete and clear I've heard. Flexibility can be passive, whereas mobility requires that you can demonstrate strength throughout the entire range of motion, including the end ranges. See the J-curl and pike pulse exercises on pages 15 and 18 for 2 examples of mobility, which can be also be thought of as active flexibility. The pike pulse is a particularly clear demonstration, as it tests compression strength in a range that most people never experience. Consistency over intensity. Slow down. Where's the fire? This is coach's constant reminder that certain adaptations take weeks or months of consistent stimuli. See page 160. If you rush, the reward is injuries. In GST, there are surprising stair steps after long periods of zero progress. Roughly 6 months into doing his hamstring series, with minor gains, I seemingly doubled my max ranges overnight. This was Completely unsurprising to Sommer. I used to tell my athletes there are stupid gymnasts, and there are old gymnasts, but there are no old, stupid gymnasts because they're all dead. Diet and exercise. Rightward arrow. Eat and train. Coach Sommer dislikes the fitness fixation on diet and exercise. He finds it much more productive to focus on eat and train. One is aesthetic, and the other is functional. The former may not have a clear goal, the latter always does. They failed warm-up. Coach describing his first ever seminar for non-gymnast adults, in roughly 2007. We've got all of these beasts there. Advanced lifters, and they're strong. I tried to do my entry-level plyometric group work and some floor work with them. The stronger the athlete, the faster they went down, knees, lower back, ankles from baby stuff. We're not talking anything hard. We're talking about standing in place, and, with knees straight, being able to bounce down the floor using just your calves. No way. Their tissues couldn't take it. They hadn't done anything like it. To show you how bad mobility was, we had 15 minutes on the schedule to stretch. Nothing intricate, nothing intense. Just an easy, basic stretch. Get them loosened up for the day. That stretch took an hour and a half to complete. There were bodies lying everywhere. It was like I was in Vietnam or filming a war movie. I turned to my staff, and I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do now? They failed warm-up. They failed warm-up. Why, those Olympic boys have gigantic biceps. Male Olympic gymnasts don't have biceps the size of their waists from curls. It comes largely from straight arm work, especially Maltese work on rings. But how on earth can you practice a Maltese as a novice? I use a 50/50ths pulley system to cut my body weight resistance in half, which is similar to the ring thing, Power Monkey Fitness, or generic dream machine that Jason Niemer, page 46, loves using. I combine this with power levers, strap-on metal gauntlets that allow me to attach the ring ropes to my forearms anywhere between the elbow and the fist. This allows me to use progressive resistance, starting near the elbow and moving out to the hand. The best versions are currently only available in Europe, but there are vaguely similar iron cross trainers available in the US. 3 movements everyone should practice. J curl, page 15, shoulder extension, lift a dowel behind your back, standing, or sit on the floor and walk your hands backward behind your hips. Thoracic bridge, elevate your feet enough to feel the bulk of the stretch in the upper back and shoulders, not the lower back. The feet might be 3+ feet off the ground. Ensure you can concentrate on straightening your arms and legs, if possible, holding the position, and breathing. Good goals for adult non-gymnasts. The following goals incorporate many different aspects of strength and mobility into single movements. Beginner, J curl. Intermediate, straddle press handstand. TF, I'm working on this. Advanced, stalder press handstand. Sometimes, you just need a vibrator. Coach Sommer introduced me to a Russian medical massage specialist who recommended I use the plug-in, not cordless, model of the Hitachi Magic wand on its high setting. I've never Experience such heights of ecstasy. Thanks, Vladimir. Just kidding. In this case, it's for relaxing hypertonic muscles, i.e., muscles that are tense even though they shouldn't be. Just place the wand on your muscle belly, not insertion points, for 20 to 30 seconds, which is often all it takes at the proper hertz. Tension, headaches or a stiff neck. It's great for relaxing the occipitals at the base of the skull. Warning, having Hitachi magic wands lying out around your house can go terribly wrong or terribly right. Good luck explaining your hypertonic muscles. As one friend said to me, I think my wife has that same problem. Gymnast. Strong, unusual and effective body weight exercises. In less than 8 weeks of following Coach Summer's protocols, I saw unbelievable improvement in areas I'd largely given up on. Try a few of my favorite exercises, and you'll quickly realize that gymnasts use muscles you didn't even know you had. QL walk, an unusual warm-up. Coach Sommer borrowed this exercise from powerlifter Donnie Thompson, who calls it the butt walk. Donnie Super D. Thompson is the first person to hit a powerlifting total of more than 3,000 pounds, bench press plus deadlift plus squat. The QL walk is intended to get your glutes and quadratus lumborum QL firing, the latter of which Donnie calls an angry troll in your back. One, sit down on a mat, or gravel, if you want to. Turn your ass into hamburger meat. Legs are extended in front of you, ankles can be touching or slightly apart, and your back should be straight. I keep legs together. This is pike position, which I'll refer to quite a bit in this book. To lift a kettlebell or dumbbell to your collarbones, think front squat. I weigh 170 pounds and use 30 to 60 pounds. I hold the kettlebell horns, but Donnie prefers to support it from underneath. 3. Keeping your legs straight, no bend at the knee. Walk your butt cheeks left, right across the floor. I typically go 10 to 15 feet. 4. Reverse direction and go backward 10 to 15 feet. That's it. Jefferson curl, J curl. Think of this as a controlled, slowly rounded, stiff-legged deadlift. From Sommer, progress slowly and patiently. Do not rush. For this type of loaded mobility work, never allow yourself to strain, grind out reps, or force range of motion. Smooth, controlled movement is the order of the day. The ultimate goal is body weight on a bar, but start with 15 pounds. I currently use only 50 to 60 pounds. This can perform miracles for thoracic, or mid-back, mobility, all while helping the hamstrings in the pike position. When I asked Coach Sommer how often I should do these, he said, we do these like breathing. In other words, at a minimum, J curls are done at the beginning of every primary workout. 1. Begin by standing up straight, legs locked, holding a bar waist high with your arms shoulder width apart. Figure 8, think deadlift. Top position. 2. Tuck your chin tightly against your chest, keep it tucked for the entire movement, and slowly bend over, one vertebra at a time, from the neck down. Figure B, keep your arms straight and the bar close to your legs. Lower until you Can't stretch any farther. As you become more flexible, stand on a box. I use a rogue plyo box, with the goal of passing your wrists below your toes. Keep your legs as perpendicular to the ground as possible, and try to not push your hips back until your head is below your waist. 3. Slowly stand back up, rolling one vertebra at a time. Your chin should be the last thing to come up. Figure C, that's 1 rep. Repeat for a total of 5 to 10 reps. Dips with RTO, ring turn out. So you can do 10 to 20 regular dips. Fantastic. I challenge you to do 5 slow dips on rings with proper turnout at the top. Support position. Imagine the lines of the knuckles pointing to 10 and 2 o'clock at the apex. Perform this without piking, bending at the hips, or leaning your torso forward. This requires the brachialis to work like a mofo at the top, and it requires good shoulder extension at the bottom. My nemesis. Curse me, then thank me in 8 weeks. If you can't do 15 regular dips, consider starting with push UPS with RTO, which Kelly Starrett, page 122, first showed me. For the push UPS, ensure that you use the hollow and protracted position from cast wall walks. On page 19. Hinge rows. This is an excellent low-risk option for smashing your mid-traps and external rotator cuff muscles, which are used for handstands and just about everything in gymnastics. Visualize popping up like Dracula in a coffin, then hitting a double bicep pose. The catch, your hands are holding rings the entire time. Once you can do 20 reps of hinge rows, Google lat flies and progress to those. 1. Set up a pair of rings to hang about a foot above your head when you're sitting on the floor. 2. While sitting on the floor, grab the rings. Keeping your heels on the floor, lie back, and arms straight. Lift your hips off the ground. Focus on making your body, head to heel, ramrod straight. Figure A. 3. Sit up, pike, until your head is between the rings and hit that double bicep pose. The bends at your waist and elbows should be about 90 degrees. Figure B. 4. Slowly lower yourself back down. Repeat 5 to 15 times. AG walks with rear support. These are hugely productive and a major wake-up call for most people. 99% of you will realize you have no shoulder flexibility or strength in this critical position. 1. Get some furniture. Sliders, $5 to $15. These look like drink coasters and are used to move furniture around without scratching the floor. 2. Sit down in pike position and put your heels on the furniture. Sliders, which I now always pack for travel workouts. 3. Put your hands on the floor by your hips and arms straight. Lift your hips off the ground. Try to make your body perfectly straight from shoulder to heel, just as in the hinge rows. 4. Easy. Now walk forward with your hands, pushing your feet along the floor. This can be done forward and backward. Aim for 5 minutes of constant movement, but feel free to start with 60 seconds. You'll see. Pro tip. This is a great way to freak people out when done at 2 a.m. in hotel hallways. Pike pulses. When one of my meathead friends is Laughing at my GST exercises, I have them attempt this. It usually ends with a head shake and a puzzled holy fuck. 1. Sit in pike position in the middle of the floor. Point your toes and keep your knees locked. 2. Walk your hands out on the floor, as far toward or past your feet as you can. 3. Now, try to lift your heels 1 to 4 inches, which is 1 repetition or pulse. For 99% of you, this will be completely impossible and you'll feel like an ice statue. Ratchet back and put your hands midway between hip and knee. See how you do and then move your hands forward enough to allow only 15 to 20 pulses. If you did really well, now try it with your lower back against a wall. What happened? Sorry, killer, you weren't actually pulsing, you were rocking back and forth like a cradle. Do it against the wall to keep yourself honest. Cast wall walk if you have no gymnastics background. This one will be fun/terrible. I use cast wall walks as a workout finisher and recommend you do the same, as you'll be worthless afterward. First, let's define the position you need to maintain. Torso hollow, sit on a chair, back straight, with your hands on your knees. Now, try to bring your sternum, chest bone, to your belly button. Shorten your torso by 3 to 4 inches by contracting and pulling in your abs. You'll maintain this position throughout the entire exercise. No lower back arch or sag permitted. Shoulders protracted, keep your torso hollow per the above. Now, pretend you're hugging a telephone pole. Your shoulders should be well in front of your chest, sternum pulled back strongly. Straighten your arms but maintain this position. Next, without losing any of the aforementioned, lift your arms overhead as high as you can. There you go. Now we can begin. 1. Get into a handstand position against a wall. Nose facing toward the wall. Figure A. 2. Keeping your body in one line, slowly walk your hands out and your feet down the wall simultaneously. Figure B. Keep your knees straight and walk with your ankles. The steps should be small. 3. Reach the bottom with your feet on the floor in a push-up position. Fig. C. Correct your form to be maximally hollow and protracted. 4. Reverse and go back up the wall, returning to handstand position. That is 1 rep, my friend. Target is 10 reps, but stop this one at least a few reps before muscular failure. Otherwise, woe unto your face when gravity opens a can of hoop ass on your flattened head. Spirit. Animal. Beaver. Dominic D'Agostino. Dr. Dominic D.O.M. D'Agostino. T.W. at Dominique D'Agosti 2. KetoNutrition.org, Ph.D., is an associate professor in the Department of Molecular Pharmacology and Physiology at the University of South Florida, Morzani College of Medicine, and a senior research scientist at the Institute for Human and Machine Cognition, IHMC. He has also deadlifted 500 pounds for 10 reps after a 7-day fast. He's a beast and no big surprise he's a good buddy of Dr. Peter Attia, my MD friend. Page 59, who consume jet fuel in search of optimal athletic performance. The primary focus of Dom's laboratory is developing and testing metabolic therapies including ketogenic diets, ketone esters, and ketone supplements to induce nutritional/therapeutic ketosis, and low toxicity metabolic-based drugs. Much of his work is related to metabolic therapies and nutritional strategies for peak performance and resilience in extreme environments. His research is supported by the Office of Naval Research, Department of Defense, private organizations, and foundations. Little known facts. Back around 1995, DOM gifted Tony Robbins's, page 210, personal power audio set to all of his undergrad lifting buddies. Two contacted him years later to thank him for changing their lives. After my first podcast with DOM, Whole Foods markets around the country sold out of Wild Planet canned sardines. Preface. This profile is one of several that might save your life, and it has certainly changed mine. As such, it deviates from the usual format to act as more of a mini primer on all things ketosis. There is a lot of diet talk, but the supplements and fasting can be treated as separate tools. No bacon or heavy cream required. For ease of reading, some of the concepts are slightly simplified for a lay audience. My current personal regimen is included. First, some basics. The ketogenic diet, often nicknamed keto, is a high-fat diet that mimics fasting physiology. Your brain and body begin to use ketones, derived from stored or ingested fat, for energy instead of blood sugar, glucose, a state called ketosis. The diet was originally developed to treat epileptic children, but there are many variations, including the Atkins diet. You can achieve ketosis through fasting, diet, exogenous ketones, or a combination. How do you know when you're in ketosis? The most reliable way is to use a device called the Precision Extra by Abbott. This can measure both glucose and blood levels of beta-hydroxybutyrate, BHB. Once you reach 0.5 millimolars, a concentration you can consider yourself lightly in ketosis. I tend to feel increased mental clarity at 1 mol or higher. The primary resource, as you'll come back to this, DOM's top go-to resource for the ketogenic diet, including FAQs, meal plans, and more, is ketogenicdietresource.com. I like to promote mild to moderate ketosis for health and longevity, which is between 1 to 3 mol. TF, these levels help protect DNA from damage, among other benefits. YC. Consider ketosis or supplemental ketones, fat loss and body recomposition, potent anti-cancer effects, better use of oxygen. DOM can hold his breath for 2 times his normal duration when in deep ketosis, 2 minutes rightward arrow 4 minutes. I observed the same. Essentially, you can derive more energy per oxygen molecule with ketone metabolism. This oxygen utilization advantage is why some elite cyclists are experimenting with keto. This also helps performance at high altitudes, if you're going from sea level to mountains, for instance. Maintain or increase strength. In a study with 12 subjects, DOM demonstrated that even Advanced weightlifters could maintain or increase strength, performance, and hypertrophy after 2 weeks of keto adaptation. Consuming 75 to 80% of calories from fat, supplemented with MCT and coconut oils, and restricting carbohydrates to 22 to 25 g per day. Ketones have an anti-catabolic protein-sparing and anti-inflammatory effect. Lyme disease, caveat. This is a personal experience, not a double-blind study. Reaching deep ketosis, for me, 3 to 6 mile, through fasting. Then continuing with calorie-restricted keto for a week, completely eradicated symptoms of Lyme disease when all else failed. It was the only thing that helped. After my first course of antibiotics, it produced a night and day difference. A 10-time improvement in my mental performance and clarity. I suspect this relates to mitochondrial rehab and the anti-inflammatory effects of ketones. More than a year has passed and the symptoms have not returned, despite following the non-ketogenic slow-carb diet, see page 81, 90% of the time. Why consider fasting? DOM has discussed the idea of a therapeutic purge fast with his colleague Dr. Thomas Seyfried of Boston College. Per DOM, if you don't have cancer and you do a therapeutic fast 1 to 3 times per year, you could purge any precancerous cells that may be living in your body. If you're over the age of 40, cancer is one of the 4 types of diseases, CDR. Peter Attia on page 59, that will kill you with 80% certainty, so this seems like smart insurance. There is also evidence to suggest skipping the scientific detail that fasts of 3 days or longer can effectively reboot your immune system via stem cell-based regeneration. DOM suggests a 5-day fast 2 to 3 times per year. DOM has done 7-day fasts before, while lecturing at the University of South Florida. On day 7, he went into CLAS with his glucose between 35 and 45 mg/dl, and his ketones around 5 mol. Then, before breaking the fast, he went to the gym and deadlifted 500 pounds for 10 reps, followed by 1 rep of 585 pounds. DOM was inspired to do his first 7-day fast by George Cahill, a researcher at Harvard Medical School, who'd conducted a fascinating study published in 1970 wherein he fasted people for 40 days. Fasting doesn't need to make you miserable and weak. In fact, it can have quite the opposite effect. But let's start with how not to do it. Some personal background: I did my first extended fast as a last resort. Lyme disease had decimated me and put me at 10% capacity for nearly 9 months. My joints hurt so much that it took 5 to 10 minutes to get out of bed. And my short-term memory worsened to the point that I began to forget good friends' names. Adding inputs, example, drugs, for treatments, etc., didn't seem to help, so I decided to try removing all inputs, including food. I did my homework, found the best reviewed fasting clinics in the US, and headed off. My first 7-day fast was excruciating. It was medically supervised at a clinic, where we also had room and board. Patients were permitted to consume nothing but distilled water, tap water, toothpaste, and even bathing were advised against. No exercise or leaving the facility were permitted for liability. Reasons. From days 3 to 4, my lower back pain was so extreme that I remained on my bed in fetal position. The doctors told me this was toxins being released, which I didn't accept. I insisted on blood testing instead, and the explanation for the lower back pain was simple: my kidneys were getting hammered by sky-high uric acid levels. I wasn't allowed to exercise, not even brisk walking, so it was taking forever to get into ketosis. My body was breaking down muscle tissue so the liver could convert it into glucose, and uric acid was a byproduct. On top of this, since patients were limited to distilled water, nearly all the fasters, about 40 in total, couldn't sleep due to electrolyte depletion and subsequent cholinergic responses, example rapid heart rate when trying to sleep. Nonetheless, I noticed benefits. Long-standing skin issues disappeared after a few days, as did chronic joint pain. On the morning of day 7, I woke up to blood spilling out of my mouth guard. I had been dreaming of strawberry shortcake, seriously, and chewed the fucker so hard that my gums split open. Basta. I broke my fast with stewed pork against doctor's orders and decided 2 things. Fasting was very interesting, but this wasn't how I would do it. Wait. So what's the fasting you practice? In the last 2 years, I've done a lot of fasting experiments, focusing on real science instead of old wives' tales. Example. You must break your fast with shredded cabbage and beets. I now aim for a 3-day fast once per month and a 5 to 7-day fast once per quarter. I would like to do one 14 to 30-day fast per year, but the logistics have proven too inconvenient. The longest fast I've done to date was 10 days. During that fast, I added vitamin C IVs and hyperbaric oxygen. 2.4 ATA x 60 minutes, 3 times per week. I did DEXA body scans every 2 to 3 days for tracking and also consumed roughly 1.5 g of BCAAs upon waking, and roughly 3 g of BCAAs intra-workout. After a 10-day fast, I had lost 0 muscle mass. In contrast, I lost nearly 12 pounds of muscle in that first 7-day fast. How and why the difference? First, I allowed trace amounts of BCAAs and 300 to 500 calories of pure fat per day on my fast. Second, I got into ketosis as quickly as possible to skip muscle wasting. I can now do this in under 24 hours instead of 3 to 4 days. The more often you enter keto, the faster the transition takes place. There appears to be a biological muscle memory related to monocarboxylate transporters and other things beyond my pay grade. Fasting is key, which is why the keto protocol used at Johns Hopkins for children with drug-resistant seizures begins with fasting. Here's my protocol for my usual monthly 3-day fast from Thursday dinner to Sunday dinner. On Wednesday and Thursday, plan phone calls for Friday. Determine how you can be productive via cell phone for 4 hours. This will make sense shortly. Have a low-carb dinner around 6 p.m. on Thursday. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday mornings, sleep as late as possible. The point is to let sleep do some of the work for you. Consume exogenous ketones or MCT oil upon waking and 2 more times throughout the day at 3 to 4 hour intervals. I primarily use ketocana and caprylic acid, C8, like brain octane. The Exogenous ketones help fill the gap for the 1 to 3 days that you might suffer carb withdrawal. Once you're in deep ketosis and using body fat, they can be omitted on Friday and Saturday. If needed, drink some caffeine and prepare to walk out the door no later than 30 minutes after waking. I grab a cold liter of water or smart water out of my fridge, add a dash of pure, unsweetened lemon juice to attenuate boredom, add a few pinches of salt to prevent misery/headache/cramping, and head out. I sip this as I walk and make phone calls. Podcasts also work. Once you finish your water, fill it up or buy another. Add a little salt, keep walking, and keep drinking. It's brisk walking, not intense exercise, and constant hydration that are key. I have friends who've tried running or high-intensity weight training instead, and it does not work for reasons I won't bore you with. I told them, try brisk walking and tons of water for 3 to 4 hours. I bet you'll be at 0.7 mile the next morning. One of them texted me the next morning, holy shit, 0.7 mile. Each day of fasting, feel free to consume exogenous ketones or fat, example coconut oil in tea or coffee, as you like, up to 4 tablespoons. I will often reward myself at the end of each fasting afternoon with an iced coffee with a bit of coconut cream in it. Truth be told, I will sometimes allow myself a snacks packet of nori sheets. Oh, the decadence. Break your fast on Sunday night. Enjoy it. For a 14-day or longer fast, you need to think about refeeding carefully. But for a 3-day fast, I don't think what you eat matters much. I've done steak, I've done salads, I've done greasy burritos. Evolutionarily, it makes no sense that a starving hominid would need to find shredded cabbage or some such nonsense to save himself from death. Eat what you find to eat. Once you're in keto, how can you keep it going without fasting? The short answer is, eat a boatload of fat, 1.5 to 2.5 g per kilogram of body weight, next to no carbs, and moderate protein, 1 to 1.5 g per kilogram of body weight, each day. We'll look at Dom's typical meals and day in a minute, but a few critical notes first. High protein and low fat doesn't work. Your liver will convert excess amino acids into glucose and shut down ketogenesis. Fat as 70 to 85% of calories is required. This doesn't mean you always have to eat rib eye steaks. A chicken breast by itself will kick you out of ketosis, but a chicken braise tea cut up into a green leafy salad with a lot of olive oil, feta, cheese, and some bulletproof coffee, for example, can keep you in ketosis. One of the challenges of keto is the amount of fat one needs to consume to maintain it. Roughly 70 to 80% of your total calories need to come from fat, rather than trying to incorporate fat bombs into all meals. One does get tired of fatty steak, eggs, and cheese over and over again. DOM will both drink fat between meals. Example, coconut milk, not water in coffee, and add in supplemental ice cream, detailed on page 29. DOM noticed that dairy can cause lipid profile issues, example can spike LDL, and has started to minimize things like cream and cheese. I experienced the same. It's easy to eat a disgusting amount of cheese to stay in keto. Consider coconut milk. AUDIOBOOK pure coconut milk, instead. DOM doesn't worry about elevated LDL as long as other blood markers aren't out of whack, high CRP, low HDL, etc. From DOM, the thing that I focus on most is triglycerides. If your triglycerides are elevated, that means your body is just not adapting to the ketogenic diet. Some people's triglycerides are elevated even when their calories are restricted. That's a sign that the ketogenic diet is not for you. It's not a one-size-fits-all diet. All that preamble out of way, here's what Big DOM eats. Keep in mind that he weighs roughly 100 kilograms 220 pounds, so scale as needed. Breakfast 4 eggs, cooked in a combo of butter and coconut oil. 1 can of sardines packed in olive oil, such as Wild Planet brand. 1/2 can oysters, Crown Prince brand. Note, carbs on the label are from non-glycemic phytoplankton. Some asparagus or other vegetable. TF, both DOM and I travel with boxes of sardines, oysters, and bulk macadamia nuts. Lunch. Instead of lunch, DOM will consume a lot of MCT throughout the day via Quest Nutrition MCT oil power. He will also make a thermos of coffee with a half stick of butter and 1 to 2 scoops of MCT powder, which he sips throughout the day, totaling about 3 cups of coffee. Dinner. One trick I've learned is that before dinner, which is my main meal of the day, I'll have a bowl of soup, usually broccoli cream soup or cream of mushroom soup. I use concentrated coconut milk in place of the dairy cream. I thin it out with a bit of water so it's not super dense in calories. After eating that, the amount of food that I want to consume is cut in half. Dom's dinner is always some kind of large salad, typically made up of mixed greens and spinach together. Extra virgin olive oil, artichokes, avocado, MCT oil, a little bit of parmesan or feta cheese, a moderate amount about 50 g of chicken, beef, or fish. He uses the fattiest versions he can get and increases the protein in the salad to 70 to 80 g if he had a workout that day. In addition to the salad, DOM will make some other vegetable like Brussels sprouts, asparagus, collard greens, etc. cooked in butter and coconut oil. He views vegetables as fat delivery systems. Dom's recipe for keto ice cream. Dom's ice cream recipe contains roughly 100 g of fat, or 900 kilocalories of keto goodness. It can save the day if your dinner is lacking fat. Remember to hit 70 to 85% of total calories from fat. 2 cups sour cream. I like Strauss Creamery brand, or unsweetened coconut cream, not coconut water. 1 tablespoon dark chocolate baking cocoa. 1 to 2 pinches of sea salt. My favorite is flaky Malden. 1 to 2 pinches of cinnamon. A small dash of stevia. DOM buys Now Foods organic stevia in bulk. Optional, 1/3, 1/2 cup blueberries. If DOM hasn't had carbs all day, or if he has worked out. Stir that all into a thick mousse and stick it in the freezer until it takes on an ice cream-like consistency. Once you've removed it and are ready to dig in, you can eat it straight or add toppings. Make whipped cream. Using heavy cream, nearly 100% fat, and a bit of stevia. Drizzle on 1 tablespoon of heated coconut oil, especially if the bomb has the blueberries in it, and mix it all in, which produces the mouthfeel of crunchy chocolate chips. The keto diet calls for around 300 g of fat per day at Dom's body weight of 100 kg, 220 pounds. This dessert helps up the ante dramatically. It's also delicious. Dom's wife does not follow a ketogenic diet, but even she loves this dessert. Dom's tip for vegetarians: MRM Veggie Elite Performance Protein. The chocolate mocha is very good. If you take roughly 1 scoop and mix it with coconut milk, throw in a half an avocado, pour in some MCT oil. The C8 oil. The shake that I made up has 70% of the calories from fat and 20% of the calories from protein, 10% of the calories from carbohydrates. Dom's go-to supplements: Quest Nutrition MCT oil powder and Quest Nutrition coconut oil powder, kettle and fire bone broth, 2 to 3 times per week. Ibenone is another product that I take 400 mg when I fly or before hard exercise. I think of Ibenone as a version of coenzyme Q10. It's more absorbable and gets to the mitochondria easier. It's like a mitochondrial antioxidant. Magnesium daily, magnesium citrate, magnesium chloride, and magnesium glycinate. When I started the ketogenic diet, I started getting cramps. Now that I'm supplementing, I don't get any cramps. If I had one go-to magnesium, it would be this magnesium citrate powder called Natural Calm Cevation Stand. Perform Branch Chain Amino Acids, BCAAs, leucine, isoleucine, and valine in a 2 to 1 to 1 combination, leucine being the predominant branch chain amino acid in the formula. Leucine is a powerful activator of mTOR, which is a good thing. Activating mTOR in skeletal muscle is really important in a short workout. I use the product pre-workout and intra-workout. Ketocana and Keto Force. Privet Keto //OS. Creamy exogenous ketones, tastes great. Kaganix, more of a tangy Kool-Aid flavor. Both Privet and Kaganix are based on a BHB plus MCT patent Dom's lab developed, which is owned by his university. More on fasting and cancer treatment. Fasting before chemotherapy is definitely something that should be implemented in our oncology wards, says Dom. He adds, fasting essentially slows, sometimes stops, rapidly dividing cells and triggers an energetic crisis that makes cancer cells selectively vulnerable to chemo and radiation. There are good studies to support this. One of my friends is in full remission from advanced testicular cancer. Others in his chemo cohort were laid out for 2 to 3 days in bed after chemo sessions. But he fasted for 3 days before sessions and was running 10 miles the next morning. Fasting sensitizes cancer cells to chemo, as mentioned, but it also helps normal cells resist the toxicity. This isn't appropriate for all patients, especially Those with extreme cachexia, muscle wasting, but it is applicable to many. In cases of cachexia, some selective androgen receptor modulators, SARMs, which are designed to have the anabolic, tissue-building potent Y of testosterone, and other anabolic steroids, without the androgenic, i.e., secondary hormonal effects, could be helpful. DOM is also researching the use of BCAAs. He has had 50% increase in survival in cancerous rats by adding the branched-chain amino acids to a ketogenic diet. Just as promising, the animals maintain their body weight. In one study, treating mice with aggressive metastatic brain cancer using keto and hyperbaric oxygen treatment, HBOT, DOM, Dr. Seyfried, and other scientists were able to increase the average survival time from 31.2 days standard diet to 55.5 days. For the HBOT protocol, DOM used 2.5 atmospheres, 2.5 ATA, for 60 minutes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Including pressurization and depressurization, each session lasted about 90 minutes. Even in a worst-case scenario, if a patient is intubated and on their last legs, one could potentially add exogenous ketones to and for alongside, or in place of, glucose, as exogenous ketones have been demonstrated to have a significant tumor-suppressing or shrinking effect, even in the presence of dietary carbohydrates. To me, the last italicized part is the most remarkable. If you think the ketogenic diet is for lunatics, exogenous ketones only require mixing a scoop in water and swigging it down. 5 things in case of late-stage emergency. Here are the 5 things DOM would do if he were diagnosed with one of the worst-case scenarios: late-stage glioblastoma, GBM, and aggressive brain cancer. Some of Dom's colleagues are opposed to the standard of care protocols, like chemotherapy. Based on the literature, DOM feels these are warranted in situations involving testicular cancer, leukemia, lymphoma, and stage 1 and 2 breast cancer. Outside of those examples, it makes little sense to treat cancer with something we know is a powerful carcinogen. Chemotherapy. Dom's 5 picks all appear to work through overlapping mechanisms. This means that there is a synergy in using them together. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 10, let's say, not 5. I've starred those on the following list that I've experimented with myself. Asterisk ketogenic diet as base therapy. This is the foundation. Asterisk intermittent fasting, 1 meal per day within a daily 4-hour window. Asterisk ketone supplementation, 2 to 4 times per day. His objective would be to elevate his BHB levels 1 to 2 mol above his baseline, achieved by the aforementioned 2. In other words, if he were running at 1.5 mol, using a 1 meal per day modified Atkins diet, he would take enough supplemental ketones to consistently achieve 2.5 to 3.5 mol. The easiest options are Ketocana and or Quest Nutrition MCT oil powder. Combining them, you're approaching the potency of a ketone ester developed for military applications. The powdered MCT increases gut tolerability 2 to 3 times versus oil, so you can consume more of it. Asterisk metformin, HEWOW. LD. Titrate the daily dosage. I.e., start low and gradually increase, until he reached GI distress, diarrhea or reflux, then dial it back slightly. This would give him his upper tolerable limit, which ranges from 1500 to 3000 mg/day for most people. DCA, dichloroacetic acid, for reasons not completely understood, and under some circumstances, DCA can kill cancer cells at dosages relatively non-toxic to normal cells. DOM would start with 10 mg per kilogram of body weight, he weighs 100 kilograms, and titrate up, not exceeding 50 milligrams per kilogram, as you can start to experience peripheral neuropathy at that level. Thiamine B1 can reduce neuropathy. Clinical trials use around 20 milligrams per kilogram. DCA appears to work well on all diets, including high carbohydrate. I asked another MD I trust the same question: what would you do if you had late-stage GBM, without sharing Dom's answers? His anonymized answer is below. I began start those I'm experimenting with. If I, meaning name omitted, freak of all time, had GBM, I would do the following. 1. No radiation. 2. Calorie restricted keto diet with support from exogenous BHB. 3. Metformin at 2 or 2.5 g/day. 4. DCA. 5. Hyperbaric oxygen. 6. Rapamycin in modest, intermittent doses. 7. Sequence the tumor to see if a checkpoint inhibitor, a type of immunotherapy, could be effective. Not sure I could recommend this to anyone, though. Dom's most gifted or recommended books. Cancer as a Metabolic Disease by Thomas Seyfried, required reading for all of Dom's students. Tripping Over the Truth by Travis Christofferson, DOM has gifted this to 7 or 8 people over the last year. The Language of God, a Scientist presents evidence for belief by Francis Collins. Recommended to watch. The gut is not like Las Vegas. What happens in the gut does not stay in the gut. Presentation by Alessio Fasano. A fantastic idea I wish would expand nationwide. Keto Pet Sanctuary, KPS. Funded by the Epigenics Foundation, KPS goes out of its way to rescue dogs with incurable terminal cancer. Their goal isn't to provide hospice-like treatment for terminal dogs. Of course, they care for and love the animals, but instead of writing off the canine companions to their fate, KPS provides groundbreaking human-grade metabolic-based cancer therapy for dogs. Cahill, George F. Starvation in Man. New England Journal of Medicine 282. 1970 668 to 675. Safdie F.M., Dorf T., Quinn D. Fontana L., Way M., Lee C., Cohen P. Longo V.D. Fasting and Cancer. Treatment in Humans, a Case Series. Report. Aging, Albany, New York, 1.12, 2009. 988 to 1007. Dorf T.B., Grosjean S., Garcia. A. Shah M., Sao D., Pham H., Chen. C.W., Brandhorst S., Cohen P., Way M. Longo V., Quinn D. Safety and feasibility of fasting in combination with platinum-based chemotherapy. BMC. Cancer, 16.360, 2016. Bianchi G. Martella R., Rabara S., Marini C., Capitanio S., Orengo A., Emianite L. Lavarello C., Amaro A., Petreto A. Fever U, Sambusity G, Pistoia B. Raffagello L, Longo VD. Fasting induces anti-Warburg effect that increases respiration but reduces ATP synthesis to promote apoptosis in colon. Cancer models. Oncotarget 6.14. 2015 11806-19. Lisi, Raffagello. L. Brandhorst S. Safti FM, Bianchi G. Martin Montalvo A. Pistoia B. Wei M. Wang S. Merlino A. Emianite L. De. Cabo R. Longo VD. Fasting cycles retard growth of tumors and sensitize a range of cancer cell types to Chem Other. AP. Science Translational. Medicine 4.124, 2012 124 RA27. Patrick Arnold. Patrick Arnold, FB. At Prototype Nutrition. PrototypeNutrition.com. Widely considered the father of prohormones, is the organic chemist who introduced androstenedione, remember Mark McGuire, and other compounds, into the dietary supplement world. He also created the designer steroid known as THG, or the clear THG, and two other anabolic steroids that Patrick manufactured, best known norbolitone, weren't banned at the time of their creation. These hard-to-detect drugs were at the heart of the Balco doping scandal, involving Barry Bonds and others. These days, Patrick is innovating in the legal world of ketone supplementation, including breakthroughs for military and commercial applications. The new performance enhancers. No big surprise, I'm fascinated by all performance-enhancing drugs, which have been used since before the first Olympiad. On the legal side, here are two of Patrick's creations that I found useful. Spray ursolic acid. Ursolic acid helps with body recomposition. The benefits are summarized nicely in the title of one study. Ursolic acid increases skeletal muscle and brown fat and decreases diet-induced obesity, glucose intolerance and fatty liver disease. Asterisk it can't be ingested in pill form, as it will be destroyed by first pass liver metabolism, nor can it be injected, as it doesn't mix with oil. This led Patrick to create a topic alcohol suspension. As ursolic acid is neither hydrophilic nor hydrophobic. Tricky stuff. Spray is sold on his Prototype Nutrition site. Funny side note, the dose is 50 sprays for approximately 249 milligrams of active ursolic acid. That's a lot of pumping. Some other guests' wives have complained about late-night bathroom PSSSHHH. 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 Sessions that seem to go on forever. Patrick Arnold's pre-workout shake. If you are in ketosis, drinking exogenous ketones pre and intra-workout can substitute for carbs. As Patrick elaborates, it's pretty amazing. I've given it to people who tell me, I'm on the ketogenic diet, and I work out and I feel like crap. I say, try this, and they say, wow. I didn't get tired. My body had all the fuel it needed. My friend Ian Danny's company, Optimum EFX, has a product called Amino Matrix. It's very expensive, but since I've worked with him, we make some of his products. I get it for free. It's basically a full spectrum of essential amino acids, branched chain amino acids with some other things thrown in there, lipoic acid, citrulline malate, and A few other things. I mix that with about 45 ml of Keto Force, which is the liquid exogenous ketones you are not supposed to drink straight. See the jet fuel story on page 60. If you mix it with the amino matrix, which is very tart, it buffers the alkalinity of the Keto Force, and it ends up tasting quite good. TF, a tablespoon of lemon juice, in the water you use to dilute Keto Force, will also work for buffering. If Keto Force is too odd for your stomach, try the powdered ketocana, also developed by Patrick, which I often use before aerobic exercise. Metformin for life. Extension. Both Patrick Arnold and his frequent collaborator, Dominic D'Agostino, Ph.D., page 21, are interested in metformin, which is not their creation. DOM considers it the most promising of the anti-aging drugs from a scientific standpoint, and I would estimate that a dose N of the people in this book use it. In type 2 diabetics, to whom it's prescribed, metformin decreases the liver's ability to make and deposit glucose into the bloodstream. Metformin also dampens the signaling pathways associated with cancer growth, proliferation. Rats with metastatic cancer in DOM studies have increased survival rates by 40 to 50%. It mimics calorie restriction and fasting in many respects. Some researchers believe it could damage mitochondria, but nonetheless, many MDs and technologists are taking metformin prophylactically to prevent cancer. DOM did a test where he took 1 g of metformin daily for 12 weeks, and had blood work done throughout. His diet and exercise didn't change. In his post-test, his triglycerides were the lowest they had ever been. His HDL was around 98, bumping up from 80, and his C-reactive protein wasn't even measurable. The only side effect he saw was that his testosterone was lower, and that came back into normal range once he stopped taking metformin. Kunkel SD, Elmore CJ, Bongers KS, Ebert SM, Fox DK, Dial MC, et al. Ursolic acid increases skeletal muscle and brown fat and decreases diet-induced obesity, glucose intolerance and fatty liver disease. Pilo S17, 6. 2012 E39332. doi 10.1371/journal.pwn.00393332. Spirit. Animal. Wolf. Joe Decina. Joe Decina, TW/FB/IG. At Spartan Race, Spartan.com, is the co-founder of the Death Race. Spartan Race, more than 1 million competitors, and more. He has completed the famously grueling Iditarod dog sledding race by foot. He also finished the Badwater Ultramarathon, 135 miles at over 120° F/49° C, Vermont 100, and Lake Placid Ironman all in the same week. The man is a maniac. And he's a very strategic businessman. I first met him through Summit Series, summit.co. He keeps inviting me to visit him in Vermont, and I refuse because I'm afraid. Why? He started tackling insane events while working on Wall Street. You make and lose $30,000, $40,000 in minutes screwing up an order or having customers tell you that they are no longer going to deal with you. It was very stressful business. I wanted to get back to the core of life. A friend said, well, you could die. There is this one. The Iditarod in Alaska. They do it in The middle of the winter, it is by foot. And it is 30 below. But, you have to. Sign me up. I have to do it. I had to. Get back to this place where you just want water, food, and shelter. All the craziness of my life, this Wall Street life I had taken on, would go away. Would melt away. On the origins of the death race. And what if I created with a buddy of mine this race that purposely broke these people? Not the way the races I had done or a marathon does, but where I would actually drive the participants crazy. Not tell them when it is starting. Not tell them when it is ending, not giving them water, giving them buses during the middle of the race and saying, you could quit here. Just get on the bus. This is not for you. You are too weak, and that was the beginning of my race business. Tim, how do you break people? Joe, well, I don't think they knew what they were getting into, because we had never done it before. One guy I remember specifically started crying. And he was like, I am a really good runner. I just do not know how to chop wood. Broken. Because no one knew. We did not tell them. So, Doug Lewis, who is an Olympic-level downhill skier, is 18 hours into this thing and he is cracking. He is broken and he turns to me and says, I made the Olympics. I trained my whole life. I am a pretty tough guy. He goes, this is fucking crazy. That moment, we knew we had a winner. Funny anecdote from Amelia Boone. Amelia Boone, page 2, has finished the death race 3 times and sent this to me. Hurricane Irene washed out a bridge on his property. A 1-ton metal I-beam had been stuck in the water for a few years, and the state was going to fine him some obscene amount if he didn't remove it. It would have cost him tens of thousands of dollars to have it removed. So instead, he had his winter death racers get in the river in January and remove it for him. It took us probably 8 hours. I came away with 2nd-degree frostbite in most of my toes, as did many others. And the hilarious part? People paid him to experience that, the race entrance fee, and he avoided fines and the cost of removal. Fucking genius. Random tidbits from follow-up conversations. Joe, like Jocko Willink, page 412, believes that you shouldn't need caffeine or alcohol. He also thinks you should sweat like you're being chased by the police daily. When people tell Joe to stop and smell the roses, his first response is, who is maintaining the roses? Do you have any quotes you live your life by or think of often? It could always be worse. Breathe. Motherfucker. Whim. S. Answer to what would you put on a billboard? Wim the Iceman Hof. Wim Hof, TW/IG at Iceman_Hof. IcemanWimHof.com, is a Dutch world record holder nicknamed the Iceman. He is the creator of the Wim Hof method and he holds more than 20 world records. Wim is an outlier of daredevils, as he routinely asks scientists to measure and validate his feats. Here are just a few examples. In 2007, he climbed past the death zone altitude on Mount Everest, 7,500 meters, wearing nothing but shorts and shoes. In 2009, Wim completed a full marathon above the Arctic Circle in Finland. Once again only in shorts. Despite temperatures Close to 20 degrees C, 4 degree F. Wim has set multiple records for ice bath endurance, with his best time at nearly 2 hours. In 2011, he ran a full marathon in the Namib Desert without water. He can also run at altitude without suffering altitude sickness. Warning, never do breathing exercises in water or before training in water. Shallow water blackouts can be fatal, and you will not feel the onset until it's too late. Wim Hof breathing should never be done near water. Joshua Waitzkin. Page 577, another podcast guest with decades of freediving experience, suffered a shallow water blackout at a public pool in New York City and was underwater for an additional 3 minutes before being pulled out by a lifeguard. He remained unconscious for an additional 20 minutes, and was then hospitalized for 3 days and subjected to a barrage of tests to assess the damage, including potential brain damage. He could have died extremely easily. So, to reiterate, do not practice this type of breath work in combination with water immersion. There will be no warning sign before you lose consciousness. MK. A mind-blowing experiment. Before I describe the exercise, I shall repeat my usual refrain: don't be stupid and hurt yourself, please. Use a very soft surface in case you face plant. 1. Do a set of push ups and end a few repetitions short of failure. Record the number. 2. Rest at least 30 minutes. 3. Do 40 repetitions of the following breathing exercise. Max inhale, raise chest, and let go exhale, drop chest sharply. The let go exhale can be thought of as a short ha. If you're doing this correctly, after 20 to 30 reps you might feel loose, mild lightheadedness, and a little bit of tingling. The tingling is often felt in the hands first. 4. On the last breathing cycle, breathe in completely, exhale completely, then do another set of push ups. More often than not, people will experience a sharp increase in the max number of push ups, even though their lungs are empty. Cold is a great purifying force. Wim, Surfing King Laird Hamilton. Page 92, and Tony Robbins, page 210. All use cold exposure as a tool. It can improve immune function, increase fat loss, partially by increasing levels of the hormone adiponectin, and dramatically elevate mood. In fact, Van Gogh was prescribed cold baths twice daily in a psychiatric ward after severing his own ear. All the problems I have in the daily world subside when I do cold exposure. Exposing myself to the worthy cold. It is a great cleaning, purifying force. Wim takes cold to terrifying extremes. His retinas froze once while swimming in a lake under sheets of ice, but you can start with a cold water finish to showers. Simply make the last 30 to 60 seconds of your shower pure cold. Among others in this book, Naval Rubicon, page 546, Joshua Waitzkin. Page 577, and I now do this. Josh does it with his tiny son, Jack, who he's trained to say it's so good when it feels unbearable. Below is my current cold regimen, often alternated with heat, which we covered on page 7. My full workout process then is 1. Pre-workout BCAA. 2. Workout. 3. Post-exercise whey protein. 4. immediate heat, 20 minutes, followed by 5, cold, 5 to 10 minutes. I repeat the hot-cold cycle 2 to 4 times. My post-workout cold routine is as follows. Put 40 pounds of ice. This will depend on your bathtub size, into a bathtub, and then fill with water. That order avoids splashing and speeds things up. Instacart is helpful for ice delivery. Or buy a garage freezer just for bags of ice, which is far easier than fancy ice making or cooling contraptions. 15 to 20 minutes later, when the water reaches 45 degree F, it is ready for use. I drop a $5 immersion thermometer from Carolina Biological Supply Company in the water for tracking. Coach Sommer, page 9, uses the low 50s degree F for his athletes. After heat, I enter the ice bath, keeping my hands out of the water. This allows me to stay in for longer, as capillary density is high in the hands. Hands go under for the last 3 to 5 minutes. The magic diet. I expected a mutant such as Wim to have dietary tricks. When I asked him about his typical dinners, his answer made me laugh. I like pasta, and I like a couple of beers, too. Yeah. How can he function on this food? Genetics might play a role, but he also rarely eats before 6 p.m. and tends to eat one single meal per day. To use the lingo of the cool kids, he has practiced intermittent fasting for decades now. Heart-to-heart hugs. When I first trained with Wim in person in Malibu, California, I noticed he hugged differently than most people. He throws his left arm over the person's shoulder, putting his head to the right of theirs. I asked someone on his team if he was left-handed. No. He just wants to hug heart-to-heart with everyone. I love this, and several friends in this book now do this on special occasions. Just be forewarned, it throws people off. Just like offering someone your left hand to shake, so best to explain, just tap your heart and say heart to heart. This also helps to avoid headbutts. Wim plus DOM equals interesting. During that same training session, I went from my normal 45-second breath hold time to 4 minutes and 45 seconds with no perceptible side effects. Several months later, while in deep ketosis, 6+ mol, after 8 days of fasting, I did the same exercises in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber at 2.4 ATA. The result? I held my breath for a staggering 7 minutes and 30 seconds before stopping in fear of my brain melting. In case you miraculously missed my warning at the beginning of this profile, page 42, read it. If you read it, please reread it. For more on ketosis and fasting, see Dominic D'Agostino on page 21. Rick Rubin's barrel sauna. Here are the specs for Rick Rubin's page 502, barrel sauna, which is a slightly smaller version of what Laird Hamilton, page 92, has. There are 2 long benches along the walls, and it can easily seat 6 to 8 people. It is about 7 feet in diameter and height. I have an exact duplicate in my backyard, which I often use 1 to 2 times daily, as it only takes 5 to 15 minutes to warm up. How on earth is it so fast? The heater is 3 to 4 times larger than it should be for the cubic footage. This is done on purpose, but it will freak out suppliers who are hesitant to combine a small sauna with a large heater. Put them together at your own risk. The sauna and heater components are typically sold separately. This book will likely give Dundalk, the sauna company I used, the hug of death. They'll be overwhelmed with requests and cease to be a viable option. I've provided a few alternatives below. Prices obviously change over time. Sauna Dundalk 7x8 red cedar barrel sauna. With window and heavy duty fold up benches and extra wood for heater. Guard, door hinged on left, cost $6,500, unassembled. DundalkLeisureCraft.com. Other suppliers with decent reviews. Worth considering. AlmostHeaven.com. Barrel-sauna.com. LeisureLiving.ca. Heater. Model NC12 with SC9 control and 1 phase relay box, plus 2 boxes of rocks. What I have, cost $2,000. Sauna.com/Nordic-sauna-heaters. LeisureLiving.ca. Spirit. Animal. Bunny. Jason Niemer. Jason Niemer, IG at Jason Niemer. Acroyoga.org, is a co-founder of Acroyoga, which blends the spiritual wisdom of yoga, the loving kindness of Thai massage, and the dynamic power of acrobatics. Jason was a two-time U.S. junior national champion in sports acrobatics and represented the U.S. at the World Championships in Beijing in 1991. He performed acrobatics in the opening ceremonies of the 1996 Olympics. Acroyoga now has certified teachers in more than 60 countries and hundreds of thousands of practitioners. Backstory. In 2015, I sat next to Jason at a dinner party at a friend's house in LA. Somehow, my lower back pain, which had been plaguing me, came up, and he offered to fly me on the spot. Having no idea what that was, I agreed and ended up getting spun around in the air on his feet for about 15 minutes. It was surreal and seemed to defy the laws of physics. Two things worth noting: I weighed 180 pounds and he weighs 160, he's done the same with someone 280 and 6 feet 7 inches, and my back no longer hurt after the upside down traction. In the past, I'd always been repelled by yoga, too much mumbo jumbo, too little excitement. Acroyoga is a different beast. You'll endure the occasional Sanskrit, but it's otherwise like a combination of body weight strength training, dance, the bass is the lead, and the flyer follows, rough housing, lots of wipeouts, and hip rehab. After 10 sessions, my lower body felt 10 years younger. It's also the ultimate movement-based Prozac. In a culture where physical touch is taboo, this allows you to experience sensual but not sexual connection, all while getting incredibly strong and flexible. Last but not least, I laugh at least 50% of the time in all training sessions. It's a wonderful balance to all the serious training that I do. If you'd like to see me both BAS-ing and flying, as well as teaching some basic techniques, just search Acroyoga on youtube.com/timferriss. Odds and ends. Duckshit oolong tea. Jason brought this delicious tea for us to drink during recording. It's sometimes called duckshit fragrance tea. Supposedly, long ago in a region in China, the local populace wanted to keep this amazing tea for themselves, so they nicknamed it duckshit tea. Smart move. It was played down for centuries, until being rediscovered as very much non-duckshit flavored. Jason gets his from Quantita, quantity.com. Jason has traveled the world for the last 6 years, never staying in one place. More than 3 weeks. He travels with next to no luggage but insists on carrying a ukulele and a donkey's load worth of feet up, shoulder stand device, or substitutes. The limiting factor for most people learning handstands is the wrists. This weakest link prevents you from getting enough upside down practice. The feet up device addresses this. Imagine a small padded toilet seat cushion mounted on a low stool. You stick your head through it, rest your shoulders on the padding, grab the 2 handles, and kick up into a headstand or handstand, with your shoulders supporting your weight. This allows you to work on alignment, tightness, positional drills, tuck, pike, straddle, etc., in higher volume. The feet up is Jason's preference, but it's hard to find in the US, en.feetup.eu. The body lift yoga, headstand and yoga size bench are similar, or search for yoga headstand bench. A saying from one of Jason's mentors, Chinese master acrobat Lu Yi. Mo extension. More extension. In a handstand, you should push your shoulders as near, or past, your ears as possible. If you've ever done shrugs with dumbbells, imagine doing that with your arms overhead, and avoid arching your back. Also, the first knuckle, fist knuckle, of the index finger is prone to lifting off the ground in handstand practice. Jason calls this the naughty knuckle. For Instagram inspiration, check out these profiles. At the Acrobear, at duo_die_acrobatics, at acrospherics, at kiracro_, at acropedia.org, at mike.adela, at yogacro, at lux_cedalacro. To find acro yoga classes, teachers, and movements, acropedia.org. Facebook, search your city's name and Acro Yoga. The Acro Yoga Berlin page, for example, has 3,650 playmates and training partners ready for you. Acromaps.com. Acropedia.org, techniques. What do you believe that other people think is insane? It's Jason's follow-up that I love the most, but this gives context. That you can trust people. You can trust a lot of people. You don't have to live in fear of strangers. Strangers are just people you haven't flown yet. It seems crazy to me that, in many cultures, we teach our children to fear and not talk to strangers. I've been all over the world. My mom was not happy when I was going to go to the Middle East for the first time. I was actually in Boston, about to lead a teacher training, when the Boston Marathon bombing happened. I had 15 students who were on lockdown for 24 hours. I got on the phone to my mom and I said, "Look, Mom, you think Israel is dangerous. I'm in Boston. You cannot hide from danger. But I don't think that's a reason to not trust people. I've traveled the world in some very sketchy places and I've never had anything bad happen to me. I assume the best and people. I assume that I can trust them until they prove me wrong. When you do this practice enough, trusting is like a muscle that you flex. It doesn't mean that I'm a cowboy with it. I have really good credit assessment. Tim, hold on, you said nothing bad has happened to you. How much of that is simply seeing things in the most positive light. Because you had your throwing knives stolen by customs officers in Panama. So shit happens. I'm imagining. Jason laughed, was quiet for a second, then answered. One of the things that happened to me. That was really amazing. I had all of my objects liberated from me. Basically, I didn't want to work in restaurants anymore, and I'm like, I'm a yogi. I'm going to do this. I don't care how hard it is. I love this. Boom. So I was living in my van. My 30th birthday, my friend throws me a party. That night I got a book on Buddhism, a case of coconuts, and I hung out with my friends. The next day, my van's gone. My home is gone. Everything is gone. So I go crack a coconut and start reading about Buddhism because what the fuck else am I gonna do? And page 4 is talking about homelessness and wandering. I think that's what I'm going to do. And that started my nomadic traveling. If I had stayed in San Francisco and tried to make it as a yoga teacher, acro yoga wouldn't be a worldwide practice. Let go of what's not working and really assess what is working and what can I be excited about. It's not that bad. Things don't happen to me. I don't label a lot of things good/bad. Instead, I ask, can I evolve from this? What do I want now? Where is my center now? Most gifted or recommended books. The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I love really condensed, Shakti, empowerment-filled, energy-filled statements, something that you can read in a few minutes or you can read for your whole life. TF, this little tome is fewer than 100 pages long. Spend the extra $5 for the version with the author's illustrations. Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Jason travels with this book. Oftentimes, before meditation, I'll just open it randomly to a page I read about something and then just have that be what I steep in as I sit. See Rick Rubin, page 502, and Joshua Waitskin, page 577. When I asked Jason via text which translation he liked, he joked Tao Te Ching to Madre, my friends, and then specified, Stephen Mitchell. Jason's best $100 or less purchase. Jason loves disc, frisbee, golf and travels with discs. In particular, Innova's Rock mid-range disc and his go-to driver, the T-Bird. He plays the game, but he also, on rare occasions, lets a disc go. I correct people when they get really serious because there are people who have caddies. For real. Those people think it's a sport. It's a pastime, no matter how hard you work at it. It's a piece of plastic, and you're throwing it around. But to watch a disc fly for about a minute, it's magical. In yoga, there's this philosophy, svaha. I call it fuck it. Let go. I like to throw frisbees off of really high objects. And when I'm in these very ceremonial places like Machu Picchu, it's like, what am I releasing? So it's an intentional act. What would you put on a billboard? Play. Play more. I feel like people are so serious, and it doesn't take much for people to drop back into the wisdom of a childlike playfulness. If I had to prescribe 2 things to improve health and happiness in the world, it'd be movement and play. Because you can't really play without moving, so they're intertwined. Treadmills kill your spirit. There are reasons and times to do treadmills, but if that is your only way of moving your body, you're selling yourself short. There are much cooler ways to move your body, way more fun things, and I just happen to have the good fortune to learn a lot of these really cool things. So, play. Parting thoughts? Don't overcompartmentalize. On theoretical yoga versus applied yoga. I also feel that there's a ceiling on yoga, and the ceiling is, you have all this amazing knowledge and all this amazing practice, but how are you bringing that into the world? What happens when you're in traffic? How are you with your mom? Do you talk to your mom? Do you tell her the truth? Acro yoga. Tie and fly. Acro yoga is a blend of three complementary disciplines: yoga, acrobatics, and therapeutics. The therapeutics were brought into the fold by Jenny Sauerklein, the other co-founder of Acro Yoga, along with Jason Niemer, page 46, and resemble suspended Thai massage, so much so that it's often referred to as tie and fly. I've seen Jason blow high-level acrobats' minds, even those from Cirque du Soleil, with folded leaf, page 55. Perhaps the easiest of all acro yoga therapeutic poses. Be forewarned that it's sometimes jokingly referred to as leaf blower, as it puts face close to groin. If your partner's not ready to be inches from your crotch, hippie twist. Page 54, is a Disney-friendly alternative. To intro you to the acro world, I'll share a few of my favorite moves from therapeutic flying. They are much safer than acrobatics, which require a teacher and spotters. In 5 minutes or so, I've used the following to fix lower back pain in at least 6 of the people featured in this book. I haven't felt this type of release and relaxation in years or ever, is a common response. Take it slow and enjoy. If it's uncomfortable, you're not doing it right. Do this on a mat or grass. And I suggest practicing the moves in the order listed. Anything in quotation marks is what I'd say as a base. The person on their back, teaching a first-time flyer, the person getting inverted. Go. OD Rule 4. Acro and for life, tell people what you want, not what you don't want, and keep it simple. In other words, say stronger elbows and not don't bend your arms. Say softer feet and not stop poking my ABS with your toes. There are a million ways to teach acro basics well, of course. The following is my personal preference. Before inverting anyone flyer, practice on the ground what you'll be doing in the air. 1. Sit on the ground, legs straight and spread, 90 degrees is fine, back as straight as possible. This is a pike straddle position. The angle between your torso and thighs should be 90 degrees. This bend at the hips is super critical, as it provides a shelf foothold for the bases. Feet. Put your hands on top of your hip crease, including the first 1 to 2 inches below. I'll say that is where my feet are going to be. 2. Now, bring your feet in. Soles together, into butterfly stretch position. The space in between your legs should look something like a diamond. For you yoga people who love Sanskrit, it's Badakonasana. The asana suffix just means pose. This all meant nothing to me when I first started learning, so I called it butterconasa for months. 3. Keeping that butterfly position. Now reach behind your back and grab your elbows. If you can't do that, grab your forearms. Base, load. Test your legs. 1. Get on your back and put your legs straight up in the air. This is an L base position. 2. Have your flyer cross their arms so that their forearms are on their chest. Have them place their forearms across both of your feet and lean onto you, putting weight on your legs. How does it feel? 3. Don't let your toes drift toward your face, which will make things strenuous. Keep the hip angle at 90 degrees, if possible. 4. If your hamstrings are very tight, you can fold a yoga mat or towel and put it under your lower back. The elevation will help. Hippie twist. 1. Base, lie down. Flyer, stand right by the base's hips, feet twice shoulder width apart. 2. Base, put your slightly turned out feet on flyer's hip creases. 3. Base, tell flyer, put your hands on my knees. Figure 8. 4. Look in my eyes. Take a deep breath. As you exhale, bend forward, and I'll catch your shoulders. Keep your hands on my knees but let your arms bend. And, if needed, aim to put the top of your head on my stomach. 5. Base, meet flyers shoulders with arms straight and fingers pointing up, and lift flyer into the air. Fig. B. 6. Keep your legs wide and your feet heavy, toes to the ground. Flyer, keep a strong bend at your hips. Most flyers lift their legs, losing the shelf, which can lead to a fall. Another cue, keep your feet as close to the floor as possible. 7. Let your upper body be heavy and legs be super heavy. 8. Now, reach behind your back and grab your own elbows, if you can. Grabbing forearms or wrists is also fine. 9. Bring the soles of your feet together to butterfly stretch. Figure C. Now, bring your toes down enough that you can see them. This ensures the proper shelf. 10. Base, arms and legs should be straight. Deep inhale, and exhale. Base, on the exhale, slowly bend one leg to twist the flyer at the waist. Return to all straight. Repeat the breath and twist to the other side. Repeat 4 to 6 reps total. Folded leaf and leaf hugger. Repeat steps 1 to 7 of hippie twist. 8. Base, tell flyer, now, relax your arms completely and put the tops your hands on the floor. I'll help. Lightly grab flyer's wrists and place their hands well behind their hips. Figure D, flyer should not be supporting any weight. Flyer's legs should be wide and heavy, as close to the floor as possible without straining. This is folded leaf position. 9. Base, reach your hands under the flyer's armpits and underhook, landing your hands on the upper back. See inset. 10. Base, bend your legs to lightly rest the flyer's rib cage on your shins. Figure E, this creates a safer angle for the flyer's shoulders. 11. Base and flyer, inhale together. Base, extend the flyer back with your bent legs as your arms traction the flyer's upper body back in opposition. This is leaf hugger. 12. Base, return to legs straight. Releasing traction on the flyers. Back, then repeat for 2 to 4 reps. Leg love gravity. Boots. At the end of an acro yoga session, the base's legs are typically fried. This is when leg love comes in the flyer, helping to decompress and restore the base's legs and hips. There are dozens upon dozens of techniques, example bus driver, but this one gives a fantastic bang for the buck. Since I've never heard a name for it, I'll call it gravity boots, as the effect is similar. Even used independent of acro yoga. This exercise has therapeutic value. 1 base, lie on your back, legs straight and spread a few feet. 2 flyer, stand between base's legs and pick up their feet, holding onto the lower Achilles and top of the heel. Base should completely relax and not help. 3 fly. Stagger your stance, turn the bases feet inward like a pigeon toe stance. Behind your hips, inset, and then lean back for 2 to 5 seconds. Figure 8, this will decompress the bases, hips and legs. Repeat for 3 to 5 reps.